survive with this mentality?
Hi guys.
Hi.
How are we all?
Fantastic.
All is good.
Hi everyone. Amazing.
I'm amazing, but that's my natural way of being.
Love that. Love that.
It's nice to see a full house on the couch today.
It is. We've added to our family.
Yeah.
It's a big group today, right?
It is a big group today. We brought in a guest speaker, special guest speaker. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. Hi, my name is Iris. I am a blogger, a TikToker. I'm many things actually, but the most important thing is that I'm a relationship coach.
Nice.
I work with singles, with people that are in a toxic relationship and so on. And my mission is to empower men and women on their love journey. And if I may say one more small thing, when I went on this path about a year ago, I realized that I cannot just work with women. That would not be right. Men need support, and men are a huge important part of our lives. And that made me write 3 articles for the love of men, women's massive impact on shaping men, and what does it mean to be a true feminist.
We love that.
And I think we're going to talk more or less about it.
We love that.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Where are they found? Your vlogs?
I will, after the
Yeah.
podcast, I will give you my
Send them
blog.
to me.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a little
Link in
look.
the description below.
And listen, I'm not the most sophisticated writer, but I think I'm doing pretty well, and I really pour my heart and soul there. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Amazing. No-
So what are we talking about today, Sione?
Yeah, I don't need a man, but I want one.
Yes.
A heavy topic, and I think it's said more often than not. It's said very casually. I think it's said, I've heard it throughout my lifetime, but only until the other day, because I'm trying to be more purposeful with what it is that I say. And I was talking to myself. Sounds crazy, but I spend some time in my kind of like little flow state, and I was talking to myself, and that sentence came out, and I was like, ooh, don't like that.
do you
Why?
like it?
Well, it didn't necessarily align with me. It was almost like I've heard it before and I've just repeated it. So as opposed to actually delve in deeper as to what that actually means, I just said it, and I was like, ooh, that's not nice, and
It's
not
wrong, right? It's
yeah,
wrong.
well, that's how I feel about it. So I kind of wanted it to sit within you guys and to see what you feel, what that statement actually means to you.
I've got a question for you. Did you at the time recognize where it was that you may have heard it or where it may have come from?
Yeah, definitely. And it actually came up in conversation without me even speaking to a few of my female friends the other day. They said it, and I went, ooh, where did you hear that? And she went, that came from a really toxic place. I was like, oh, right, okay. So it's said more often than not, but I've only just become aware of what it is that is actually being said.
Right.
So yeah, how do you guys feel about that sentence?
So
What
I
is
want to
it
probe
that?
the minds of the women on this podcast. So I don't need a man. Let's break it down first of all.
But I want one.
What does that pertain to?
I feel like people say it from a place of hurt. I get it, but I don't get it. It should be said, I don't need somebody else. I don't need a person. It's not necessarily a man. To live, you need food, water, sun, air. So you could live in solitude. It'd be a very lonely place,
And
but you
hummus,
could live in
hummus.
solitude for the rest of your life. It'd be really, really sad, really not a nice place, but you can do that. So it's not, I don't need a man, it's I don't need somebody, like another person, another being to live my life. And that's a statement. That's human nature. Like you could go and do that. But I feel like when someone puts man in that, I feel like it's coming from a space of it's toxic. It's them going through something very negative, or whether will that be them currently dating or going through a not very nice relationship, and them saying it as I don't need a man. Does that make sense?
What do you think, Iris? Because naturally you speak to people that are in relationships or have come out of relationships, toxic, non-toxic. So there must be echoings of these kind of statements.
I don't need a man. It's in most cases it's unsolved past trauma, right? So it's always easier for us humans to sit on a couch and find excuses than stand up and action, right? And do something about it. Like going to coaching, going to therapy, looking in the mirror, asking ourselves questions. And for me personally, I don't want a man, I don't need a man, but I want one. First of all, I would rephrase that in my personal world. I'll say something like, I need a man, I want a man, I love men, I cherish and I honor them. But this is me, and of course, thankfully, a lot of other women like me. Now, if you want me to translate the question, the statement, it's something like, I don't need men because I'm independent enough, I'm strong enough, I make my own money, I don't need a man to do absolutely anything for me. But I want one because maybe I have to be in the society standards, I have to follow them, and it's not bad to have a relationship, and I need a hug at night, right? So this is what it means. It doesn't represent me personally, but I guess for some women it can be something like that,
How does it make you men feel? Like, as men, like, how does it make you feel to hear that statement? I don't need a man, but I want one.
I think there's definitely some truth in that, but I think in its overarching essence, the idea or the overinflation of independency is to me, is bullshit. We're all codependent as beings in general, right? Our very base is codependency. We need other people, right? The idea of I'm going to go and live off grid and live in the mountains and be by myself is falsely propagated, in my opinion. Now, with regards to the basic day-to-day needs, with regards to monetary, right? Enough money to pay the bills, enough money to pay my rent or whatever it may be. Yeah, of course you don't need a man for that. I think that's where the sentiment comes from, where there was once a point where women stayed at home, men went out, were the breadwinners, brought the money back home, and that's where that kind of comes from. So I get it, but in that statement in and of itself is setting up a cross current. Because you're saying, I don't need this thing, but then I would like this thing, which is not the right energy, frequency, however you want to put it, to attract that into your life. And it's an
imbalance, don't you think?
Absolutely.
To say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I was going to say as well. Like, it creates the imbalance between masculinity and femininity, which is what I feel we need in any couple, whether it's a same-sex couple or a heterosexual relationship. There has to be the imbalance of masculine and feminine energies. So when it comes to someone wanting and needing a relationship, there has to be that, that polarity. And in the world that we live in today, where we have the fight for equality, which I'm all for, and I believe it's important, but when it comes to relationships, there isn't supposed to be equality in all realms, in all areas. So yes, we have women today that can make their own money, be independent, everything, and be living in a very hyper-masculine state. But what it's causing is this, I think, the opposite, which we have a society of hyper-feminine men. And women are striving now to find men and can't find men that can match or surpass their level of masculinity, and therefore it just perpetuates the cycle of, I can't even find a man that will even be able to take care of me or anything.
Agreed.
So you don't need a man, you still want a man, but you can't find the men, so then they end up going for the toxic guys or treat you like shit.
Because to them that's a man. That's the power.
And men, I feel like are afraid to assert themselves as masculine men.
It's hard to, though. Don't you find it's hard to? Because a lot of the narrative I hear is that when a masculine man, or when a man's man is out there and is trying to put himself forward, there's two things that usually happen, and they're quite polar. You have a lot of women would gravitate towards him because he holds that masculine energy, but then he's seen as a dick. Right, he's an asshole.
Depends how he behaves anyway. He can be very masculine and a super nice guy, right?
There are. Yeah. However, that's what he's talking about, right? In most cases, those kind of men are seen as hyper feminine. So he's too nice. He could be a super masculine man, but he's too nice, and so women would not generally.
I had such a boyfriend, and he was a blessing. He was the best man I've ever been with, for example.
But you are very different. And the argument still stands. If he is and was the best boyfriend you've ever been with, then he'll still be around, right? So what happened?
Do you mind to tell you what happened?
No, I mean, you could.
Or it's just like a rhetorical question,
But the point is this, right?
Yeah.
It's arguable that if he was the best thing ever, then there shouldn't be a reason for him not to be there. But there are reasons why men genuinely no longer stay within relationships. The other side to what I was going to say is this, right? Is women gravitate to men like that, but then once they get into those relationships, then try and step up in their own masculinity and change or transform the way in which the dynamics of that relationship should work, because they want to make it more comfortable for themselves in that relationship. But you have to remember the reason you got with this guy in the first place was because you thought he was going to be a man's man, which means he has to be a little bit more dominating than you in that respect. And so now you're in a relationship.
100%.
Now you're in a relationship, and he's telling you, listen, you can't do that. There are parameters. I'm not saying about abusive relationships, right? But if a man's saying, listen, that's not going to run because I'm going to make that decision, and now you're saying, oh, hold on, I want equality. Where do you draw the line? You know what I mean? It's a very thin line.
It's funny, I said that the other day, and I was saying to, I can't remember who I was speaking to. I was speaking to Carmel, actually. And I was saying to her, the same things that women love about me, oftentimes in the confines of a relationship, are the things they grow to hate about me.
Yeah.
And it's that assertion, right? It's that domination aspect of being a man. It's that wanting to lead your woman. And ultimately wanting to lead her in the best interest of, you know, her, myself. And sometimes seemingly it may not seem like that off of the bat, but that is the intention. But I think this whole independent woman propagation is to kind of make men devoid of their duty, in essence, to women. Because I think, you know, when you think about duty, right, there needs to be a degree of authority there to some extent, right? I have a duty to my children, so I have authority over them, which pushes them in the right direction. No, you cannot do said thing. But women don't really like that, and I'm talking in general here. Obviously, there are loads of women that are happy with that relationship dynamic, but generally speaking, a man that tries to lead in that stead is seen as toxic.
I find that the difference is when a man doesn't know how to lead, but he's controlling.
Yeah, that's a
But there's a difference
That's
between a good
there's-
leader and the one that wants to control. Right,
Controlling is
different
not leadership.
things. Yeah,
Controlling
exactly.
is not leadership.
Exactly.
Right? There's a difference, and when you realize what true leadership is putting forth an idea and people buying into that idea so much so that they want to follow you.
Yeah.
That's leadership.
Yeah.
When you are forcing somebody to actually step into a path, that's controlling. And so there is another conversation where there is a fine line. But bringing it back to the subject that we're talking about, I would love to explore a little bit more about where this ideology, right, in terms of, okay, Sione said something that was quite profound. She was like, I was talking to my female friends the other day, and out of nowhere they said that this statement came out. Like, I want to explore a bit more of that, because it seems like women are fueling other women, and their mothers are fueling daughters,
100%.
and it's like, where do you think the first time you heard that statement came?
I would like to answer that if it's
Yeah, of
possible.
course.
So what happens to me often as well, and it happened recently, a few months ago at an iftar. I met two girls. All I heard was, I hate men, I don't need men, all men are assholes, and by the way, girl, you need a billionaire. I mean, hello.
Oh dear.
And you know what? I didn't even, imagine. So I didn't even try to argue that much with them, because I didn't know them very well, and I knew it was going to be a waste of my time to try to convince some people.
Trying to
If they're my
change the
clients
whole-
or close friends, the conversation would be different, of course. So, but you said, where did this come from about the ideology, right? So, in my opinion, feminism was a noble movement that started a long time ago, and those women that they started it, they did it because they wanted to do something more for women, but they were not necessarily against men. They just wanted more for us. And I'm grateful that now, today in 2022, as a woman, I have so much freedom, access to whatever I want. I can make my own money. But again, you have to put it like, okay, I have all these benefits, but it has nothing to do with men, you know? It doesn't mean that I have to put them down and hate them, right?
I agree.
So I think, unfortunately, there are still true feminists out there. I believe that they're still serving noble causes. But a part of them, they're called feminists, but they're not the real ones.
Yeah.
If you say I hate men and you call yourself a feminist, you are not.
Yeah.
I don't want to say how you are, because I don't know how. So what was I saying about the feminism? So I feel like they want to take revenge in a way. They're frustrated, you know, but that's not the whole point of the movement. So they're going in the complete wrong direction. My question is, what do we do, or how do we do it in a way that we educate these women, that we help them? Because, for example, for my type of business, they're not part of my niche. They're not my clients. However, if they come to